Oh, it says
Okay, there you
contrary to
go.
meeting is sent to a third party.
So
It's
what
I don't know
working.
if we want to live stream this part though.
right. So we
Well,
can
we can
this,
let them in now. It's 6.
Okay.
but you can also turn it off if we still need to figure it out. But yeah, like as long as that's the one thing Flora said. So I don't know if that takes care of the recording portion.
It's live stream now, so let's just go ahead and
Okay, so we'll just do the sections that we usually do. We can wing
yeah.
it.
So let's go ahead and let people in. We'll get started.
Okay.
Good evening to each of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know people are coming into the room tonight, but we do want to honor your time. So thank you for being on time this evening. My name is Candace Turner. I am the Director of Homeownership with Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And again, welcome to this info session about not just our organization, but community land trusts in and of themselves. I want to take a moment to introduce a couple of members of our team to you. I'll let them introduce themselves. Let's start with UCHD Advisors, but this is Elizabeth Munyon from our team. Elizabeth?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Elizabeth Munyon. I am the home purchasing coordinator with Maggie Walker, and I work with future homeowners and homeowners going through the purchasing process.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And Shabana?
Hi, everyone, I'm Shabana Shaheen. I'm the Stewardship and Engagement Coordinator. I've been with the trust, the Maggie Walker Land Trust now for almost a month. And I work with the stewardship and engagement of homeowners. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So thank you, Shabana. And I believe we have some of our approved lenders on the call. Would you all like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, this is Mary White with Town Bank Mortgage, and I am happy to be here with you guys. And this is a great program, and I know that everyone on this is going to get a lot of great information.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
Hi, guys. This is Tanya from Virginia Credit Union. I'm also one of the approved lenders for the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. Want to welcome all of you here this evening. Hang in there with us. You're going to learn a lot in this presentation. And
Okay, thank you, Mary and Tanya. You will find their information on our website, but I am sure that they will also put their website in the chat for your reference as well. So just to give you a little bit of information about what we will be discussing tonight. Next slide, please. Our agenda for this session, we're going to talk a little bit more about what a CLT is. We will talk a little bit more about, and forgive me, CLT stands for Community Land Trust. So we'll share a little bit about that. We'll share how you can become eligible. We'll share some of the benefits of owning through a community land trust or CLT. We'll talk about the things that make this program unique, i.e. the ground lease and the difference between owning a home through a community land trust and on the conventional market. We'll talk a little bit more about resale if you decide to sell your home. And then we'll wrap up with how to apply. You will have time to ask questions throughout the presentation. We'll have moments where we'll have Q&A sessions, but also feel free to utilize the chat as well. So we've told you all a little bit more about us. We are interested in knowing, next slide, please, who all is here, why you're here, and what you're looking forward to. So you should have a poll that popped up on your screen. If it did not pop up on your screen or you're calling in by phone, please don't worry. If you can't use the chat, please feel free to do that. But tell us a little bit about yourself. The options there are you're interested in purchasing a home, you're a real estate agent, just an interested community member, you're involved in affordable housing, or if there's another reason, please check that box. So we just want to know who's in our session today. So take a moment to answer that. And then if you don't mind, in the chat, if you have access to it, let us know how you found out about the program, how you found out about Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. Found out on Instagram. Awesome, thank you. So let's see what who's in the room. According to the poll, we have 85% of participants here tonight interested in purchasing a home. We have 3% that are real estate agents, 18% that are just interested in, I guess, what the program is and why we're here. And then another 18% that's involved in affordable housing. So thank you all for participating in that. And we thank you for being here. I see someone is doing, hey, Belt Campus. I used to go to that campus. Hello. I also see that someone is doing research on CLT. So we're glad to hear that as well. So let's move forward in our presentation. And again, thank you all for utilizing the chat. We will answer questions there as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the program in and of itself and how we got to be here in the first place, right? So the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust Program is something that was birthed out of seeing the need for affordable housing here in Richmond, okay? And we do have Richmond and surrounding areas. So even though I'm saying Richmond, the program does cater to other areas as well, okay? There are a few things to note about this. There is a qualification process, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. We also believe in stewardship, which means we're with you from beginning to end. It also means that we take home ownership and the acquisition of owning a home very seriously. One of the things that makes this program a little bit different is that you have someone walking you through the program as well. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we go along. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about our namesake, Maggie Walker, Maggie L. Walker, L standing for Lena, Maggie Lena Walker. If you are from Richmond, then hopefully you've heard of her. Our program is named after her, primarily because she believed in opportunities for people. She believed that if a seat at the table didn't exist, that not only do you create the table, but you provide that position for someone. She was an entrepreneur, first woman to preside over a bank, all of this happened right here in Richmond. Her home is here. We're getting ready to celebrate her birthday as well. And so she believed in sustainability for all people, but also understood that people of color are disproportionately affected when it comes to not only home ownership, but other opportunities. So we speak her name in every one of these info sessions, and we're honored to be able to do the work that we do in her honor. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about community land trust. The first community land trust was New Communities Incorporated. And what we want to note about community land trust is that you're hearing a lot about it. Maybe for some of you, this is your first time hearing about a community land trust, but community land trusts were birthed out of the civil rights movement. So when Black farmers were found to be registered voters, a lot of them were kicked off of the property that they were living on. And so some of those homeowners, as well as advocates for people of color and housing advocates, got together to create an opportunity that people would not lose their land. And so that is where community land trust came out of. It was birthed out of the civil rights movement. It is our duty to honor that legacy. And so that is why stewardship of the land and really meeting the needs of those that come into this program are paramount for us. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay. If you have not muted your phone, please mute your phone. Thank you. All right. We want to know a little bit more about what makes you nervous or excited about homeownership. We acknowledge that we all bring our own personal stories into this journey of homeownership. And so you may be excited about homeownership, you may be ambivalent about homeownership, and you also may be a little bit nervous about it. So we want to hear what makes you excited or nervous about it. Please utilize the chat, or if you wish, you're free to come off of mute and answer that as well. I see affordable. Okay. Eligibility. Very scared. Thanks for your transparency there. The entire process, a more permanent space to blossom. Fear commitment a little. That's real. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else, what makes you nervous or excited? Not excited to live above or to not live above or below anyone. Understandable. Okay, and we can keep those rolling. Finally owning your home, but also nervous. Can you afford it? All of these are very valid. And our hope is that we'll answer some of those questions for you, but that also will alleviate some of the anxiety that you may have around that, or at least answer your questions around that. You can keep that going and we'll address some of those as we go along. Next slide, please. So I want you guys to see where our homes are at the current time, right? So if we start with the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see Ettrick, which is right on the line of Chesterfield and Petersburg. It is not too far from Virginia State University. We are building a subdivision there that's almost, well, it's about 50% on its way. Completed. We do also have some homes in Chesterfield. You'll see throughout Richmond. So that's Randolph and Northside, the East End, and Henrico as well. So we're scattered throughout Richmond and vicinity. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about the uniqueness of the program. So a community land trust, a CLT, is a nonprofit community-based organization. What makes this different is that we believe in permanently affordable home ownership. So we offer those opportunities. I'm using air quotes with affordable because I recognize that that's a relative statement, right? But the purpose of this program is to reduce the cost of home ownership now, and that helps to keep homes affordable for future buyers. Now, please note, if you were to purchase a home through us, you don't have to sell, but the way that this is set up, there's a ground lease attached, which we'll get into, that allows the home to be permanently affordable so that there's one hand pulling you into the program, meaning the program and the price of the home is pulling you into home ownership. And in turn, should you decide to sell, you are pulling someone else in at the same time. So it's an act of reciprocity. Next slide, please. Okay, so very in a airplane mode of looking at what the program is and how it works, what that means to be permanently affordable now and in the future. So the first step is a family, and a family can be a family of one, right? A family purchases a home that sits on the land owned by the CLT, meaning that person is purchasing the home in and of itself, okay? The home is affordable because prospective buyers are purchasing the home and not the land. So you're leasing the land, We'll get into that. And then homeowners lease that land under what's called a renewable ground lease. That renewable ground lease, we'll talk about a little bit more in the next few slides, but that is the piece of this that makes this a little bit different, that keeps the home permanently affordable, okay? In that process, the homeowner resells with limited equity. Keep in mind, I said active reciprocity, right? So you're pulling, the program is pulling you in and you're pulling someone else in. So you're purchasing the home at a reduced rate. And because of that system, you're also, if you choose to sell, you have limited equity in that model. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so the uniqueness about the CLT, number one, your CLT home must be your primary residence. So the owner must reside in that home the majority of the year, and they cannot rent out the home. So we don't see these homes as rental property, right? You must occupy the home the majority of the year, okay? Renovations. Can you make renovations to your CLT home? You absolutely can make renovations. However, any major renovations to the home must be approved by the MWCLT, by the CLT board. We'll talk about the board a little bit later. But any major renovations, i.e. something that requires a permit, that is considered a renovation that needs approval from our board. If you want to paint your walls, if you want to add a fence, things of that nature, we want to know that you're making those changes, but those aren't changes that need approval, okay? And lastly, you will build equity, okay? MWCLT homeowners earn all of the equity from their mortgage payments. So when you're making mortgage payments, you're paying towards your principal and you're paying towards interest. You do get back your principal payments, okay, which doesn't typically happen. But you also get increase of the value of the home, and that's determined by the increase in area median income. So you'll hear us referring to AMI, that stands for area median income. And for the sake of this program, we use the area median income, or AMI, of the Richmond area. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned if you purchase, you're purchasing the house, you're leasing the land underneath the house, which keeps the home affordable. And you're leasing the land, there's a 99-year ground lease on your home, okay? That is a legal document. You will meet with people connected to our program and with lawyers connected to the program that will explain all of that in detail to you, okay? But that is, there's a ground lease, which is $100 a year. So again, purchasing the home, leasing the land at $100 a year, once a year, or you can pay that quarterly. And it's fully inheritable, meaning you can pass the home down. And thinking about the legacy of Maggie Walker, this is one of the pivotal things in the program, is that you can pass this home down to your heirs, regardless of their income. So your heir does not have to income qualify the same way that you had to income qualify, okay? Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the board. We are a nonprofit organization. Nonprofit organizations are governed by boards. Our board is divided into 3 subdivisions. First is community members. So those are people in the community that are passionate about community land trust and that may have some experience with housing. 1/3 is also current homeowners. So we value the opinions and thoughts of the homeowners. So how our program is governed, current homeowners play a role in that. And then public members, they are people in the housing industry that are invested in the work that we do through the Community Land Trust. And so we do have public members that are also part of the board. Next slide. Okay, program eligibility. Okay, You must be income qualified. What does that mean? That means that you'll fill out an application, you'll send in your documents. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you must meet the income standards to qualify for the program. You also must agree to the terms of the ground lease, right? Big key things, annual fee of $100 a year. And then basically, as I mentioned, about renovations and things of that nature. We want everyone to be good neighbors, right? So honoring that piece about the ground lease and the stewardship of the land as well as the house. Be approved for a pre-qualification for a minimum of $150,000 from one of the lenders on our list. That's listed on the website. That's important because the lenders that are on our website know how to close deals or get you your keys in hand through this program. And it is not a typical closing. It is not a typical process. So it's very important if you're interested in this to look at that lenders list, date those lenders, meaning ask all of the questions before you decide to who you want to go with. And again, 2 of our lenders are on this call and their information is in the chat. You cannot own another home at the time of closing. Again, the goal of our program is to meet people experiencing a lower to middle area median income. And so this has to be the only home that you own. You cannot own another home at the time of closing. So in that program eligibility, when I mentioned income qualifications, we don't set these income qualifications. These income qualifications are set by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. So what you'll see here is 80% AMI, again, AMI, area median income, and 115% AMI. So this means that I'll take the one-person household, one person for an 80% AMI home, and we will, if you come into the program, you'll receive emails of homes as they become available that they will differentiate which program it's in. But you cannot make any more than what's listed here. So these are caps, okay? Not bottoms, but caps. Next slide, please. So let's take a moment to answer any questions that you may have. Again, feel free to utilize the chat or come off of mute to ask your questions. I will say this, just a housekeeping rule. If you have a question that's personal in nature, then I ask that you email that to us. And Shabana, I will ask if you can to put your email, my email, and Elizabeth's email in the chat. So if you have something personal, please feel free to ask us via email. Other than that, feel free to come off of chat or come off of mute or utilize the chat.
Good evening.
Hello.
How you doing this evening?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm well, thank you for asking. First of all, I want to thank you for creating this platform. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay. I was searching for various properties and I came across someone that was a real estate guru that referred me to this site, and I registered on behalf of my mom. Now, the issue is that I'm looking to get a handicap accessible home, and she's a vet.
I'm sorry, you went out a little bit.
I said I'm looking to get a house accommodated that would be handicap accessible. She's a veteran, and she would be wanting to utilize her VA. But her issue is I've been paying her bills for them, so she doesn't really have credit because she's up in age. But
So I'm sorry, I want to pause you right there because I definitely want to answer your question, but I want to speak with you personally because it sounds like.
Yeah, this is not the way that I'm trying to go for her. That's why I was saying, is there maybe some resources that you can, and can I inbox my information to you or?
Absolutely. Yeah, inbox your
Uh,
information. You won't hear from me tonight because we'll
No, I
wrap up,
understand.
but I will give you a call tomorrow. So I
Okay,
believe Shabana has put the information in the chat. And reach out to me via email, and I will definitely return any calls that I get tonight. Yeah, in terms of the VA loan, that piece, I will allow Tanya, just because I know that she's worked with a veteran before, but also Mary, our lenders, to speak. If you can speak to the VA loan, I don't think that that is applicable here.
no, because
But I've also worked with veterans, so I'm sure I can answer that question from another angle as well. But Tanya or Mary, do you have any insight on VA loans for this program in particular?
Yeah, the VA does not at this point offer anything with community land trusts. And that is not a program that Virginia Housing offers, or at least at Town Bank that we would offer, because it would have to be blessed through the VA, unfortunately.
yes, I was figuring that my mom wants something that she can give to her grandchildren. So this, as far as the land, so she wants to own the land.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
definitely reach out to me because
okay, let
I'm
me see.
connected to other resources outside of this program as well
I
that I may be
appreciate
able
it.
to help you with. So
I,
definitely
ap-
reach out to me via
I
email.
appreciate everything that you're doing for the community. And like I said, I'm going to still stay on, but I
Okay.
know that this is not the route for me, because I might be able to give this information to somebody else that, might be applicable too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Can I get a home with school loans? Yes. However, that is, you have to speak to a lender about that because I know that there may be implications around that I can't speak to. So definitely speak to that. The overall answer is yes, but it also depends on your situation. So reach out to the lenders. Let's see what else we have here. You don't see lenders' information in the chat. 2 lenders that are on this call, their information is in the chat, but it's also on our website. Also, you will get a link to this session tonight after this. And also we do have a YouTube channel, so feel free to refer back to that as well. What is the minimum credit score? It varies with lenders, but 640 is typically the lowest credit score, but that does vary. Miss Alexander, can you show the previous slide? We will send you the entire presentation. For the minimum income requirements, can you explain the income listed in blue on the right side? So the one side, and again, you'll get the presentation, but one column, the first column was at 80% AMI. The second column was at 115% AMI. So that range is for people in the 115% area median income. And there are times where programs are geared towards people that have a higher salary. So that cap for, let's just say a let's say a 2-person household is $101,500. How will AMI be determined between 80% and 115? So those are the numbers. As I mentioned, these are the HUD standards, but maybe you're also getting at, Ms. Moore, how do we determine which house is in that program? And that's really based on where the house is built and the partnership that the house is built under. How it determines if it's an 80% or 115% program house. Would someone qualify if their only income is Social Security? That is a very tricky subject or a very tricky answer or question, mainly because your income qualifying first with the lenders. And so a lender would have to approve you first in terms of this program. So we can't accept anyone into the program that is not income qualified or approved by one of the approved lenders. So that's one step. The other step is, we want to have a conversation around what that looks like. And what I mean by that is, taxes are going to go up more than likely. So we want to have a real conversation, and that is something that you want to start having, that real conversation with your lender. Hey, I'm approved, but what kind of cushion do I have in the numbers? So that's something that you want to ask, whether you are getting a home through this program or otherwise. And I'll take one more. I see 2 questions, and then after that, we will move forward and we'll come back to those questions, and I'll answer them in the chat as well. Is there a down payment requirement? There is typically a down payment requirement in purchasing. However, which we'll talk about soon, there are grant opportunities through some of the partners that may be able to assist with down payment. Is that the same for public service? I am not clear on what that question is asking. We will talk a little bit more about owning the land or leasing the land. And of course, yes, grants are available. How long is the process before closing? I'll take this as the last question. How long is the process before closing? It can take 45 to 60 days. And that's contingent upon a lot of factors. It's contingent upon if you're purchasing a home that's being for resale, if you're purchasing a new home, if you're getting down payment assistance. And then the last question, it's not 620 anymore. Again, that's why I mentioned it depends on the lender. I think we have one lender that's 620, but I think most lenders are 640. Okay, so I will continue to answer your questions in the chat, but moving forward, we want to talk a little bit more, next slide or next 2 slides, about how the program works, and I will let Elizabeth take it from here.
Thank you, Candace. Next slide, please. Okay, so I wanted to give you all a real world example of one of our CLT houses. This is one of our houses in Randolph in Richmond. This home is in the Randolph neighborhood, which is quickly getting very popular. When this home appraised on the market, it appraised for $340,000. But we, when Maggie Walker owns, how this program works is that we remove the land value from that home. And in this case, the land was valued at $90,000. We also add additional subsidies that we get from grants and from fundraising, and we lower that sales price to the buyer. So for example, in a house with a very high real estate market, by removing the land value and having the land remain in the land trust, we were able to sell this house for $180,000. So with a lower sales price, the homeowner also, that's a more affordability feature. So the homeowner borrows less money, they have lower monthly payments and a lower down payment than they would if they purchased on the market. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a bit about your monthly payments. So every month you'll pay a payment to your lender, and you also, in doing this, you are building equity by paying your monthly mortgage payment through your principal payment. And so this graphic shows a representation of how the mortgage works. So the blue box represents how much you are paying in interest, and the gray box represents how much in principal. So at the beginning of your time in the house, you are paying majority in interest, but as the time in your house goes on, that starts to switch and you are paying down the interest in your loan, and you are gaining equity through your principal payment. So most of your money will be going towards your principal the longer you are in your house. And so this concept holds true for most mortgages, not just for the CLT homes. Next slide, please. And then another part of your monthly payment is your escrow. So as a homeowner, you will pay for your insurance and then the taxes on your property. I'll get more into taxes in a bit, but typically these can be pretty big sums of money, but the bank wants to make sure that you pay these so that you don't lose your house. So instead of them being two really big payments twice a year, these payments are divided up into smaller increments that you pay monthly. So a big, or not a big, sorry, but a portion of your payment will go to your escrow account. And that is what the bank uses to pay the insurance company and the locality that you live in. So these amounts can change a bit year to year. However, they won't fluctuate as much as rent does. Next slide, please. So one of the awesome things about our program is that we also operate as the Richmond Land Bank, and then also the land bank for Henrico County and Chesterfield County. And because we are the land bank, that means that we are also, that the land is tax exempt. And there's also state legislation saying that the CLT homeowners cannot be taxed on the full market value of the home. So that's another affordability feature to our homeowners. So especially in high value real estate markets, you're not going to be taxed on the land as that is increasing rapidly in value. And so the taxes are also deductible if you itemize your tax return. You will still pay taxes on the house itself. Next slide, please. So in terms of maintenance, you are responsible for the upkeep of your home and any necessary and routine maintenance. So things like fixing broken appliances, taking care of your gutters, leaky roofs, broken windows, etc. That is your responsibility as a homeowner. Next slide, please. So you are renting the land from the CLT, and with that come a few responsibilities. So one of the things that we do, we touched on a bit earlier, but I'll point it out again, is that there is a $100 annual ground lease fee. This ground lease fee of $100 is really not meant to be a burden to our homeowners, but it's really meant to link you to the land and for us to ensure that you are an active homeowner and that you're residing in the property and being responsible for the land. So you are responsible for mowing your lawn, taking care of dead trees, things like that. You're also allowed to use the land for things that are allowable by your local jurisdiction. So gardens, things like that are more than allowed on the land itself. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to get into some more questions, but first I am going to tell you all a little bit about this house. This house is in Blackwell in Richmond in Southside. It's a 3-bedroom home with 2.5 bathrooms. We were able to sell this house for $180,000. And it came to us through our Richmond Land Bank program, where the city donated us the land and we built this house on the land. So let's see, are there any questions in the chat, Candace, that I can't see it on my end.
I've been answering some, and thank you for sharing the details about the house as well, Elizabeth, that's on your screen. The only one that's left out is, once approved, how long before you might be in a home? I know we mentioned 45 to 60 days, but I also want to mention that sometimes buyers in our applicant pool, which means that they have been approved, they've sent in an application, they've been approved, sometimes they may be interested in one particular area. So we do have people that are interested in the program, but may wait until the area that they desire is coming available, and that may vary. So that can add to the length of time that someone is in an applicant pool, or how long it is before they might move in a home.
Yeah, it can depend on our availability and our pipeline as well. So sometimes I like to say like all of our homes come at the same time. It will be like a little while before we sometimes have things, and then before you know it, we'll have like 10 homes at once. So it really is also dependent on our pipeline. Really depends on that as well.
And I want to add something else to that, because this is a question that comes up often. If you are maybe renting, or you're in a situation where you're ready to go like yesterday, you're like, I want to buy a home right now, I'm ready, let's do this. This is something that you have to prepare for several reasons. One, I already mentioned, it can take 45 to 60 days, specifically if you are, you want to utilize down payment assistance, which we will talk about a little bit more. But secondly, homes in this program become available as they become available, as Elizabeth mentioned, right? So it is not I guess what I'm getting at is, if you're in a lease and let's say your lease ends in 2 months, and you're saying, I want to be able to move from my lease to my new home, I don't want anyone to set themselves up that way, because homes become available not only as we build them, but just as they become available. Okay. So definitely, it's good if you are looking to purchase a home, that you're starting to have these conversations with the lenders and with us and with whomever, because it will not, we can't promise you that it's going to be a smooth process from the time that one lease ends until you get into a house. So I want to manage expectations in that area, and say that you want to really think about things honestly as far in advance as you can, just because things happen. Thank you. Any other questions before we move forward? I don't see any in the chat.
I do have one question.
Okay.
The question that I do have, I didn't see all the locations because I had just came in the meeting late. I apologize for that, because I thought it was started at 6:30, but it was 6 o'clock. I just wanted to know, are y'all gonna have houses opening in the west end of Henrico, or it's just only the east end of Henrico?
So we don't have anything in our pipeline right now for the western, or we don't have any existing houses in our current land trust in Western Henrico, but I do think that in the future that is a possibility.
Okay.
But there's no time frame for those. I'll take 2 more questions. I have one in the chat about the location of the properties being selected for the participants. So I will just say, we don't pair our homeowners with houses. We'll get into this when we talk about the application process, but once you are approved, you are able to choose a house that is a good fit for you. So we are not going to tell you which house is yours. It is up to you if a house is something that if a particular house that comes on through our pipeline is something that you think would be a good fit for you. And then at this time, we do not work with Section 8 vouchers at this point. That is something that is in the future, but we have not yet worked with Section 8, or we don't have that in our program right now.
And let me speak a little bit to that. There's not much that we can share about that, but I know that that program is still being worked out on the housing authority side. So it's not so much that we don't want to incorporate that, but the housing choice voucher program for home ownership, they're still working that out. So I believe that they will, but as of right now, they haven't completely worked that out as to how that could be applicable to home ownership. But once it is, we will be open to that being a process as well.
Great. Well, I will move on. There's going to be a few other opportunities for questions. But right now I'm going to talk a bit about the resale process. So for some of you, your Maggie Walker home may be your forever home. We do encourage you to think about if you want to remain in your home. If you have heirs, we have a life planning documents program where your home will be fully inheritable to anyone in your family or through your will. But if you do decide to sell, I am going to go deep into the resale process right now. So back please. Oops, wrong direction, Giovanna. There we go. Oh, yes. So one thing that makes our program, our homes permanently affordable is that Maggie Walker remains the holder of the land, and your home will be sold to another income qualified buyer. So we have parameters around who will be purchasing your home at resale. Next slide, please. So when you go to sell your home, you are entitled to get back your home's increase in value. And that is based on the percentage increase in the area median income while you've been in your home. I know that's confusing, but I'll get into that in a second. You're entitled to get back any cash equity. So that's any money that you put on your home during purchase. And then you're also entitled to get back your earned equity. So that is the loan principal that you paid off by making your monthly mortgage payments. Next slide, please. So our resale formula, this is what gives homeowners a return on their investment while also ensuring that it remains affordable long-term for future buyers. So the way that we do this currently is we look at the original area median income at the time of purchase, and then we subtract that from the most recent however long you've been in the home. And then we determine from that the percentage increase. So I'm going to break this down in an example, but next slide, please. So your home will increase in value based on the area median income. So for an example here, when the home was purchased, the AMI was $83,000. And then after 5 years, let's say that it increased to $90,000. That increase of $7,000 is an 8.41%. So we multiply that by the original purchase price, and that increase in value comes to $14,580. So one thing to note is that there is a cap on how much annually that can increase. So we have that capped at 3% to keep the rate of wages in line with the affordability of the region. So even if wages are increasing rapidly, the rate of the house will be affordable to homeowners that way. So historically, if this has not been the case, if the AMI decreases over the period of time you've lived in the home, you will still be able to sell it for what you purchased. It's a very unlikely situation, but I do like to put that out there. So in the traditional market, your home value is based on market fluctuation. So in a very strong real estate market, that can be a good thing. However, if there's a market crash like there was in 2008, that can really affect the homeowners as well, where in this method, using an AMI-based formula, there is much less of a volatile condition for what your home will be selling for. Next slide, please. So this slide shows how you build equity through paying your monthly mortgage payment. So again, back to your monthly payment, you're paying interest and principal with your mortgage payment. And if you've been in your home, this is just an example. You do build wealth through just paying that every month. Next slide, please. So at resale, what we do is look at the money that you have accrued just through paying your monthly principal, and then any money that you placed on a down payment when purchasing the home. And then we also look at that increase in value that is based on the wages. And we combine that number. And in this example, that is a total of $30,080 in equity. Next slide, please. And so this chart here just shows, assuming that you're paying a monthly mortgage payment of about $1,200, which is similar to the average rent in Richmond currently, give or take, in that same 5-year period, when you would have spent $72,500 in rent that you're not going to get back. Instead, you have accrued $30,805. So when we're thinking about renting versus home ownership and limited equity, a Maggie Walker home may not give you it will not give you as much equity as the traditional market. However, when we're comparing it to renting, it really is a step into home ownership. So that money will allow you to move into another home, a larger home, a home in a different area. That is the way that we are using this limited equity model to balance homeowner benefits with also affordability of the community. Next slide, please. So again, with passing on the gift, Candace mentioned earlier about can't say that word, reciprocity. This model makes it possible to keep these homes affordable for future homeowners, so that a homeowner in a similar financial situation will be able to purchase after you have moved on, if you move on. So what we do when calculating the price for the next homeowner is we take the original price that you purchased the home for, and then we tack on the $14,580, and that number is the increase in value based on area median income. And then we get the new price of the home at $194,580. So again, and there's some other fees that go into that, but that price, if you can recall from the picture I showed many slides ago, the example that I'm looking at, that house appraised on the market for about $340. So in a 5-year period, that would probably just continue to increase, but we are able to sell it for another homeowner for a much more affordable price. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm gonna give space for questions, but first tell you about this home. This home is in Highland Springs. It has a twin right next door to it. This home, I believe, is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I don't remember the square footage. But yes, it's right in Highland
Springs. 1,350.
Yes, and these 2 homes sold for 185. I don't remember.
Yes. And someone asked earlier about 115. One house was in the 80%, one house was in the 115%. That was based on what Henrico wanted, not necessarily our program.
So they both could sell for homeowners in the 115 program, but just to clarify from that chart, if you are in the 80% AMI bracket, you can purchase a house selling to folks that can purchase 115. You don't have to be in that income limit. It's confusing.
Can be.
Yes. So does anyone have any questions? Just a heads up, the next section, we're going to be talking about the application process. So if you have any questions specific to applying to the program, please hold those questions until the next section is finished, because we will probably answer your questions there. But if there's any questions about your mortgage payment, the resale process, the land.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what exactly is the difference between the 80% and the 115 qualifications?
Yeah. Siobhan, are you able to pull up the income chart? Thank you. So the column on the left is the 80% program, and then the right is the 115% program. So when you apply to our program, we do an extensive income verification, and we are making sure that you're eligible for our program. And within that, if you're falling under, let's say, for example, one person, if you fall under $61,800 as your gross annual income, then you are in the 80% program, meaning that you can apply to, or you can purchase any of our homes that are being sold at the 80% AMI limit. So all of our homes are either in the 80% or the 115 program, and that's based on funding from state and federal and local dollars. So we abide by the certain rules based on that. And so for the 115% program, if you're in between, let's say you're a household of one and you're between 61,800 and 8800, the 115 number, that means that you would be able to, you're slightly over the 80% limit, but you are able to purchase a home that is applicable for folks making 115% AMI. And so generally,
does that mean in certain areas?
Yes. So generally speaking, this is just how things have been in the past, but homes in Henrico usually allow for up to 115%. And then in Chesterfield, it's usually they have an 80% limit. Richmond can be either or depending on funding. So a lot of that is nothing that we can determine. It's based on the locality and the funding that that locality has given us for these grant opportunities. So generally speaking, the 115 is mostly Henrico County.
Wow. Okay.
But just to clarify, if you make under, or if you're in the 80%, you can still purchase a 115% home.
Okay. But if you're in the 115, you can't purchase the 80% home.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Just thank you. I'll let you, Shabana, you can go back to that slide with, I'm sorry, the other question slide that you were. So we didn't talk about that house, just in case, go back some more, just in case someone had a question. We can come back to it. No worries. We'll leave it there. I did receive a question and I did respond in the chat. I won't call the person's name, but I received a direct question about taxes, which is a great question. So I wanted to bring it to you all publicly, but I won't say the person's name that asked. So the good thing about this is you pay taxes on the house. You do not pay taxes on the land. The land is tax exempt, which typically is where you see a great amount of increase in the amount that you're paying on your taxes. So again, one of the benefits of this program is that you do not pay taxes on the land. However, you are responsible for taxes on the home. Okay. All right. I don't think there are any more in the chat. So let's move forward. Anything else you wanted to share, Elizabeth? Okay, let's move forward with the presentation and talk a little bit more about how to apply to the program. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things we want you all to start asking yourself here is if you're ready for home ownership. And when I say that, I mean, are you ready in not just in theory, but in practice as well? We talked about Maggie Walker, we talked about sustainability. And so we want to help you get to your dream of home ownership. We also want to make sure that you stay in that dream of home ownership, that the dream becomes a reality, not a nightmare, right? So some questions that you want to start asking yourself: what percent of your income can you spend on housing? What percent? What does that look like? We've talked about credit score a little bit. So what is your credit score? And DTI. DTI stands for debt to income ratio. These are all things that your lender will discuss with you, why they may approve you or deny you. But you want to know these things for yourself. And one of the things that you'll find out about us as a team while we're giving you this information about Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, we're not the only affordable housing program out there. If you have a dream of home ownership, we want to help you get there, even if it's not through us. So these questions are things, if you want to take a picture of the screen, feel free to do so. Again, you will get this entire presentation via email, so you don't have to unless you want to. But these are questions that you want to ask yourself if you're ready for home ownership. How much are you currently spending on housing, and how much are you comfortable paying? A mortgage may meet where you are paying right now, but it also may stretch you. How much cushion do you need, right? If taxes go up a little bit, or if your utilities go up a little bit, what would that need to look like for you? How long have you been at your current job? Why is that important? It's important because every time you change jobs, and of course, if you have a new job opportunity, whether that's an increase in income or an increase in your mental wellness on your job, right? That's another form of increase of wealth. The lenders are going to want to see a number of pay stubs. So we want you to be aware of that. You may change jobs, but a lender may say, well, we need more stubs to verify your income moving forward. So consider that. How much savings do you have for emergencies and maintenance repairs, right? So if something just pops up, do you have any savings to be able to take care of that? Those are the questions that you want to start asking yourself in terms of how ready and prepared you are for home ownership. Next slide, please. Okay. So I want to give you guys an overview of the application process. The first thing to acknowledge is that you've come to this class. This is a requirement for home ownership in this program. So you've completed step one, whether you want to move forward or you want to move forward later, or you don't want to move forward at all. We want to congratulate you for coming to this and maybe learning some things that you didn't know about community land trust. So the first thing you want to do after you've answered those questions for yourself is apply for mortgage pre-qualification. On our website is a list of the lenders. So you want to have those conversations with those lenders. You want to do your own Google research about what questions should you ask lenders, and bring those questions to those conversations that you're having with the mortgage lenders. Second, you want to submit your application and income documentation. We're not going to ask you anything that a lender and or any down payment assistance program is going to ask you. So be comfortable with submitting some of these documents. And I know it may make you feel a little uncomfortable because it's a lot of information, but this is standard across the board when it comes to home ownership. Complete a HUD-approved home ownership education course. We'll talk about organizations that allow that or that provide that. And that is not only for down payment assistance, but it's also so you know a little bit more about what you're signing up for. And then lastly, receive eligibility confirmation or denial email. So once you've submitted all of those documents and we do our verification on this side, we'll send you an email to let you know if you're approved for the program or if you're denied for the program and why. Next slide, please. Okay, so the income documents that are needed. Again, this is standard for most programs. You'll need 3 months of your most recent pay stubs and or benefit statements. So when asked about Social Security, we would need those statements as well, if you receive any type of benefit. 2 most recent federal tax returns and matching W-2s or 1099s. You may be an entrepreneur or business owner, so we'll need verification of that as well. 6 months of bank statements for savings, checkings, and investments. Again, I know it's personal, but part of this is used to not only make sure, again, that you can get in the home, but that you can maintain it. The lenders are going to ask for this as well, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, earlier we talked about down payment assistance and grant opportunities. These are 2 organizations that provide those opportunities. The first one is Home Housing Opportunities Made Equal. They have those classes that we talked about, but they also offer down payment assistance as well as counseling services. They're going to look at your debt to income ratio, and they're going to converse with you about your preparedness for home ownership. Also, Southside Community Development Center, they also offer down payment assistance as well in various forms. Home and Southside have some of the same revenue streams, but they also have some that are not the same. They will not, so you can't double dip, but Southside may have something that Home doesn't. So you want to be a spider and spread your legs every way that you can, okay? Try to get all of the down payment assistance that you may be eligible for. Next slide, please. Okay, these are other programs in Richmond and vicinity that also offer affordable housing opportunities. We mentioned Southside. They are unique because they do down payment assistance and counseling, but they also have home ownership opportunities. Habitat for Humanity, of course, they are an organization that builds as well. Better Housing Coalition, they also are builders. Trying to think of something that you may be familiar with. They've built all, if I'm not mistaken, of Armstrong Renaissance. So the homes that are for sale as well as the rental properties, just to give you an idea of what some of their properties look like. You can also go to their website and look at what they provide as well. And then Project Homes is another one of our partners. They also have an affordable housing program as well. So again, cast your net wide and check out these programs as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so just want to recap what we've covered. We've covered a lot, and we don't expect you to absorb it all today, which is why we are sending out the this info session to you. But just by way of recap, owner occupancy, meaning this has to be your primary residence if you do choose to purchase through us and you cannot own another home at the time of closing. Resale, there is a resale formula. However, you also do not have to resell. You can stay in your home if you choose to do so. Also understanding that there is a limited equity model in that resale formula. And we will get more into that if you do choose to move forward with the program. Maintenance and repairs, that is your responsibility as a homeowner. At the same time, if there are organizations, which there are, that may assist in repairs or maintenance, we are more than happy to direct you in that direction. But at the same time, as a homeowner, it is your responsibility to take care of those repairs. Remodeling, you are free to remodel as you see fit. We want to know about it. And part of that is because if you do decide to resell, we want to make sure that the work, especially if you're doing work that requires a permit that will need approval from us, we want to make sure that it's done in a way that will be okay and up to par to pass on to the next homeowner should you decide to sell. And then land lease fees. Land lease is what makes this program unique. Again, that's $100 a year. And that is there to not only honor the program, but it's what binds us all together. $100 a year. Next slide, please. Monique, I will answer your question. Let me get to the end and I'll answer your question, or feel free to utilize the chat. So hold your question for me. We're almost done. Okay, so post stewardship. What this means is, and I will talk about stewardship in and of itself. We will assist you in any way that we can before coming into the program. But we also consider people that come into this program as family members. You are family members with the other homeowners, right? No, that does not mean that you have to wear a family reunion Maggie Walker Community Land Trust t-shirt. It does mean, though, that you have access to someone, Shabana, that you met earlier, and our team to support you if something arises, and if there's a way that we can help you through that, we will. Also, home ownership is new for a lot of people, and so you may have questions surrounding that, and it's important for you all to know that we don't leave you once you've gotten your keys. We love to communicate with you. We love to build community. And so we depend on our homeowners to let us know how we can support building community, whether that is with their family, or I should say, whether that's within their family unit, but also within the community in which they have purchased their home, and as well as other homeowners in our program. Next slide, please. Okay, almost at the end. So we had a few questions surrounding resources and support, whether that is through credit or, what is the next step that I will take? Catholic Charities has credit counseling. And when I say credit counseling, someone asked about credit repair. They will walk through with you on really how you can repair your own credit, right? So there are a lot of programs out there that talk about, we'll fix your credit. A lot of that, to be honest, we can do on our own if we knew the steps to do so. So Catholic Charities Credit Counseling will show you what steps you need to take with creditors and getting things off of your credit, paying things, saving, all of that. We've listed the housing resource line because sometimes we may have someone coming on board that may be in a crisis situation. And so you can utilize that number as well to speak to those needs as well. And then the last slide, please, Shabana, lists our contact information. I want to address one thing, then I will address the hand that I saw raised, and then answer any additional questions that may be in the chat or that you have. So one of the things I want you guys to know is we do have a policy on our website that guides if there's more than one person. And you will see this is very important, everyone. You will see a question to come up about places that you may prefer to live, or areas in which you're interested in. This is not required, but it does give us an idea of where we should start planning to build. Okay, so please answer that question. There are two questions. The first is about areas, and then the second is about how many bedrooms are ideal. But our buyer prioritization policy listed on our website speaks to the fact that we don't operate from a Hunger Games perspective, meaning we have a system in which if there's more than one person interested in a home, how we determine who gets that home. Right? So it isn't a first come, first serve program. It is a program that caters to people with the greatest need. Look on our website, it is listed there. Okay, while you're answering the question, there was someone with a hand raised and the screen has been moving, so I apologize if I have missed you, but please feel free to come off mute and ask your question now.
Hi, my name is Monique, and I first want to thank everyone, Ms. Candace and all the presenters and the mortgage lenders for taking the time out to speak about this amazing opportunity. My concern or question is about the land rental. I know you stated it was like $100 that goes to or that gets added into the mortgage payment, correct?
No, it's separate from the mortgage payment. It is, you will receive, if you decide to come into this program, you will receive an invoice to say, hey, it's time to pay your annual ground lease, and you would pay it, whether that's via PayPal or check or however you chose
And
to
it's
pay.
usually invoiced $25 quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just wanted to know how that looks when you're not gonna own the land, and even if it's trying to see if it's even feasible that if you default, or what will happen if you don't hold up that end of that agreement?
And so when you say if you default, do you mean if you default on the mortgage or if you default on the ground lease?
On the ground lease.
Okay, so one of the things that and maybe it will be helpful if I explain a little bit more about the numbers, right? So let's just say in some of the examples that Elizabeth mentioned today, in terms of you see in the houses, i.e. the one that's here right now that I think sold for 180, the house costs about 250, 265 to build, right? And so we work very hard to put subsidy into the house to get the house down at a place that can meet lower to middle incomes, right? Area median incomes. And so that is how the numbers stay low. What makes this program unique is that ground lease, which speaks to it being a community land trust. So that the $100 doesn't by any means speak to or make up the difference in what we're actually putting into the house, but there is a small fee, which is the $100, which is kind of standard for community land trusts across the board or across the country, in terms of what that investment in leasing the land looks like. In terms of defaulting on that ground lease, that is something that we will talk to individuals in the program about. There may be a reason or complication with that. If that is the case, then personally, my fear in that is if it's difficult to pay the $25 per quarter, then I'm also concerned about that person's ability to pay the mortgage, because maybe we have a bigger situation on hand and there may be more hands on deck that are needed to help this person maintain their housing stability. So again, the $100 is typically standard across a community land trust, but it is an acknowledgement and a buy-in into what we deem a community land trust, this idea of reciprocity.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question. You're welcome. Before I ask if there are any other questions, Elizabeth, do we have any metrics from the question that you put up? Okay.
We didn't have everyone participate, but
That's
the
fine.
signs have so far. Can you see
Okay. Yeah. So we have, I'll start with the highest rate. We actually have a tie in Chesterfield for 48%, which is interesting. 48% interested in East Henrico, which is inclusive of Highland Springs and Varina, as well as Chesterfield. There is 43% in Ettrick, which is interesting. 29% in West Henrico, 14% in the West End, 24% in the East End, and 29% in South Side and almost equal parts in Central Virginia, inclusive of Jacksonville and Randolph and North Richmond. So thank you for sharing that. Also, bedrooms. The majority of people are looking for 4 bedrooms. That's good for us to know. So 4 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms are of utmost importance. And then we have 19% at 2 bedrooms. So thank you all to everyone that participated in that. It helps to guide what we're doing and how we're doing it.
There's one more poll. It is a quiz. This is just to allow us to know how we can better improve our presentation. So if you can take a moment to please answer these questions, we would appreciate that. And there's one more question in the chat about the passing on the home to your dependents. And I don't think I touched too much into this. So yes, you do not need to resell at any time. So a part of our program when you are purchasing is we have a pro bono, free of charge to you life planning service in our house. It's with our attorneys, but you meet with the attorneys and they draft a will, a medical power of attorney, and an advanced medical directive. And those are documents that are very important no matter what stage you are in your life journey. But part of signing the will and kind of determining what to do with your purchase of your home, which is likely the biggest purchase that you will make, is what happens after you are no longer with us. And so a part of that goes into having your chosen heirs to your property able to inherit the Maggie Walker house at that point. And so if you do not have a will, I believe that goes to your heirs, your most direct heirs via state law. But we do encourage all of our participants to take advantage of the life planning documents program. It's free of charge, and it is something that it's hard to think about, but it is very important.
I also want to add to that, that is inclusive of, and forgive me if I missed it in what you said, Elizabeth, but that is also inclusive of identifying like a medical power of attorney. Again, all of that is free of charge. As Elizabeth said, there are hard conversations, but they're even worse to have after the fact, right? They're even worse to have when you can't have those conversations. And so part of that legacy that we mentioned from Maggie Walker is to provide opportunities to make great decisions when you're taking on new assets, but to provide a legacy. So I know we're still answering those quiz questions while we're doing that.
I just ended it.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I just ended the quiz.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we can do the results from that. I want to address the couple of questions in the chat. The list of lenders is on our website. Elizabeth mentioned the resale. Oh, she mentioned passing down the home, but no, you do not have to resell. Are there any homes coming available? We're in the process of building right now. You may have seen a sign for homes in Varina. You may have seen some homes coming available in Ettrick. Let me share this as well. And especially if there are any realtors on the call, once you get into that applicant pool, we email you homes when they become available. Very, very rarely will you see our homes on MLS. MLS meaning, if you go on some of the websites, you Google and you want to look for homes in said area code, right? Or is that right? Zip code, excuse me. You probably won't, you will find our houses when they sell, but very rarely will you find a home on MLS. Right now, you will find one of our homes in the Randolph community, okay? The reason for that you will rarely find that, is because we present homes as they become available to the applicant pool first. If no one in the applicant pool is interested in that home, and it could be for various reasons, then we put that house on MLS. Okay. So if you're interested, or if you're not ready, but you still want to consider it, it may be worth your while to just put in the application and be in the pool until something comes available that may be of interest to you. We don't kick anyone out of the applicant pool. You can stay as long as you want. But again, our goal is to meet the needs of people that understand community land trust and what we're trying to build here. And so as homes become available, we present them to the applicant pool first. We don't send them to realtors. We don't do MLS unless there isn't any interest in the applicant pool, which is typically the case. Can you have a realtor for this process? Yes, you can. No application fees, Cynthia. You can have a realtor. We also have a realtor listed on our website. Her name is Jen. Jen Cox Realty as well. If you want to, I'm putting that in the chat. If you want to reach out to her, you can Google Jen Cox Realty and she'll pop up, and she's also on our website. So yes, you can have a realtor, but if you don't have one, you can also reach out to Jen as well. And yes, it is helpful, very. We have 4 minutes to spare. So if there aren't any more questions, I want to give space
I have
for
one more
additional.
question.
Okay.
Okay, how do the house staff go? Like, say, for instance, if it's just you and your adult child, but they still consist of your adult child at 19, still a child. So would you, if I wanted to get a 3-bedroom, would I be able to get a 3-bedroom, or I have to get a 2-bedroom?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. We do get that question sometimes. And I know some programs are based on heartbeat. So how many heartbeats per bedroom? We don't do that. So if you qualify for a home that's a 3-bedroom and it's 2 people in your family, then you qualify for a 3-bedroom. We don't monitor, we don't match this amount of people in a household to this size house. We don't operate that way. If you income qualify, then you're free to state your interest in whatever home we have available, and that isn't contingent upon family size. We have, as a matter of fact, the home that you see in this picture, that's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 home that's owned by a single person. So we don't match in that way. It's really based on your interests.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any final questions, anyone? Okay, hearing none, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. You will get this information, or showing up, I shouldn't say coming out, showing up at this Zoom session tonight. You will get this information via email. You see our information there. The 2 people that I will answer your question, Labracia. The 2 people that are not here tonight, Flora and Leah, feel free to reach out to Leah specifically. She will be the first point of contact if you decide to submit an application. But you can reach out to any of us. Labracia, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If I did not, please correct me. Can you use your own bank for a lender? The short of that is no. We strongly encourage you not to do so. And the reason for that, the reason for that is because, remember, you are purchasing the home and you're leasing the land, right? And so because of that, there are ways in which doing that, providing that type of loan product is specific to a CLT. And there's specific training that comes with that, specifically if you want to get the best interest rates, right? So the lenders that are on our list have done this. They're very aware of the nuances about the program, and they're going to work to not only get you the best rate, but to pair you up with grant opportunities that are out there, but they know the program and they can speak to that. So we don't want anyone to start moving forward and then be held back because people don't understand the program. Okay, so definitely check out those lenders on our website. Thank you all for your time, for the opportunity to speak with you. We want to encourage you in your dream of home ownership. We wish you well in your endeavors, and reach out to us if you have any questions. And good night for now.